All right. So the matter is now before the world's top court, the International Court of Justice, with Israel being accused by South Africa of carrying out a genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza, an allegation that Israel has furiously rejected. What does all of this mean? What can we really expect from the UN court in the next couple of days? To understand this, let's now go across to our guest. Joining me on Global Lens tonight, a warm welcome to Anat Bernstein, President of the Israeli Asia Chamber of Commerce, Lev Aaron, Israeli columnist and journalist, and Irina Sukuman, national security and geopolitical analyst. She joins us live from New York. Thank you so much to all my guests for coming back on Global Lens. Anat Bernstein-Reich, let me begin with you. Now, I know what Israel's stance on these allegations is. Israel is going to defend itself before the International Court of Justice tomorrow. But some of the arguments that have been made by South Africa before the ICJ are very, very strong. Amongst other things, South Africa says that even though Israel claims that it does not want to target Palestine and Palestinians, is only trying to destroy Hamas, but the continuous bombing, flattening of entire residential blocks, cutting off food, water, electricity and communications to an entire population cannot be argued to be a manhunt for just members of Hamas. And then they say the point is not that Israel is acting disproportionately. The point is the prohibition on genocide is an absolute, and the world and the ICJ must not be a silent spectator. Even though Israel has maintained all along that we are acting in self-interest and we will continue to do whatever it takes to destroy Hamas and to secure the Israeli citizens, do you not believe that that stage has come where Israel is under tremendous international pressure with the country which ironically suffered the Holocaust during the Second World War, is now being accused of carrying out a genocide against an entire people?
Good evening, Nea. It's very unfortunate that South Africa is playing into the hands of Hamas, and we always call Hamas the proxy of Iran. Now South Africa is the proxy of the proxy. And true, Israel or the Jews suffered genocide, and actually the Convention of 51 that is the base for the hearing that we have today is based on the genocide of the Jewish people. And we are part of this convention. That's why we are coming to court and we respect the court. However, genocide needs intention. And if we look throughout this war, of course, there is no intention of Israel to eliminate the Palestinians. On the contrary, we time and again, and each of our chief of staff and the president and the prime minister and the defense minister, all of them very clearly state that this war is against Hamas. Hamas is here to blame. Hamas is genociding its own people. They are going into the civilians. We spoke about it so many times. You see the infrastructure just in the background of on the footage that we see. This is the infrastructure that Hamas created in residential buildings, below the buildings, to conduct war against Israel. It is Hamas charter, and you mentioned it in your background, that Hamas charter is to kill the Jews. They have an explicit intention to kill the Jews. So it's really hypocrisy to come to us after what they've done, after they showed what they want to do, and they already did, and come to Israel and attack us for a genocide. Israel is doing the best they can not to hurt civilians. The fact that we have asked the population from the north to move to the south means that we don't want to hurt civilians. I mean, it's very simple to send aircraft and to bomb everything if really genocide is the point, and not at all. You can see a lot of footage how the Israeli soldiers are taking care of elderly and young people that they meet on the way, and they treat them so well. So to come and say it's a genocide, it's so much not what the Israelis are all about. And you know what? Maybe the hearing and tomorrow's hearing, where Israel will present itself, will show the world what really Israel is doing to protect the civilians. When you spoke about humanitarian aid, we are allowing humanitarian aid to go into the strip, but guess who is stealing it from their people? Hamas. When the truck is coming inside the Gaza Strip, Hamas militants, terrorists, I would say, go and pick those trucks and don't give it to their own people. And they very clearly said it to the media. It's more important for us to give food to our terrorists because they work hard, and the people should manage otherwise. So, I mean, I think that Israel tomorrow will show the world that all those shouts of genocide, it's really hypocrisy, and it's really upsetting to not allow us to defend ourselves from this evil that grow just in our neighborhood. And I'm sure that this court will find, and I believe in this court, that they will find Israel, of course,
not guilty of genocide. Okay.
Not guilty of genocide.
Let's just put this into perspective for our viewers. While it could take years for the court to determine whether this is indeed a case of genocide, and the court will need to examine the full merits of the case, but what we are looking at and examining at the moment is a crucial 2-day hearing that started today with South Africa, which has brought the case against Israel, laying out its case, making its preliminary arguments as to why it believes Israel is guilty of genocide in Gaza. Tomorrow, as we said, Israel will get a chance to reply, to defend itself. At the end of the second day, we may know which direction this case might move in and what the International Court of Justice has in mind. Remember, it is some emergency measures that South Africa is demanding. The topmost amongst them is that Israel should be asked to immediately suspend its military operation in Gaza. Let's not forget that the rulings of the International Court of Justice are not exactly binding. So we'll discuss all of this in greater detail with Anat, Lev and Irina on the other side of this very short break.
Ram's Ayodhya rebuilt. Ram Lala's Pran Pratishtha. Countdown to January 22nd. Dateline Ayodhya. Catch the mega coverage only on News9 Live.
Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. We're discussing the big case that has been brought against Israel before the International Court of Justice, with the country being accused of genocide in Gaza. Let me now go across to Lev Aaron. Lev, this is an unprecedented case, and there is a huge irony here. Why do we say that? As I said at the start of the show, this is the first time that the Jewish state of Israel is being tried under the United Nations Genocide Convention, which was drawn up after the Second World War in light of the atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people during the Holocaust. Today, the same Jewish people, Lev, are being accused of carrying out a genocide of the Palestinian people, of trying to annihilate the Palestinian population in Gaza. You've heard the principal arguments that have been made by South Africa today, which says that you can hardly claim that you're going just after Hamas when you are relentlessly bombing the entire enclave and when you're cutting off food, water, electricity supplies to an entire population, you have flattened the entire Gaza Strip. This is nothing but an annihilation of the Palestinian people. How would you respond to some of the arguments that have been made by South Africa today? Of course, we have to keep in mind the fact that the ICJ's rulings are not binding on any country, but they can be very damaging.
Thank you for inviting me, first of all. I think we must not fall into a pit of self-deception. Hamas and Iran and South Africa, they all know that Hamas started this war. They know it. They know also that Hamas is much closer to Nazi Germany than anything they can prove about Israel. They also know it, because Hamas openly hates Jews, and we will not read the Article 22, I think, of Hamas. So it is a matter of politics. I think any of us who saw South Africa reaction to Ukrainian war with Russia, we saw that South Africa was not blaming Russia or Putin for anything, even when terrible stories came from Bucha and from other places. So for most Israelis, it is simply a sheer politics, and it does not merit our attention or consideration. Unfortunately, we have to go to The Hague to defend ourselves as Israelis, but I do believe that after tomorrow, we will see again, a verdict will not be there. As you said before, it will take some time. But I think we will see some clues that the verdict will not be anti-Israeli one.
Okay, you sound very optimistic and confident. We'll have to wait and see if the ruling bears out your optimism. All eyes will be on the International Court of Justice, which may or may not say something at the end of the second day of this hearing. Let me now go across to Irina. Irina, as has been mentioned on this show already, we don't expect the International Court of Justice to say right away whether Israel is guilty of carrying out a genocide. That is a hearing that could go on for weeks, months, or even years. However, what South Africa is specifically demanding are some emergency measures, which primarily include that Israel completely suspend its military operations in Gaza, stop displacing Palestinian people from their homes, ensure they have access to food, water, healthcare and basic infrastructure, and that Israel takes all reasonable actions within its power to prevent a genocide. How do you see this hearing panning out? Whatever Israel's stand may be, like I put this question to Anand, do you not believe, Irina, that Israel is under tremendous international pressure today? For weeks together now, the world has asked for a ceasefire in Gaza. Now Israel is being accused of genocide before the International Court of Justice.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me back. As someone who studied international humanitarian law under the South African Judge Goldstone, the author of the infamous Goldstone report, and certainly not a fan of Israel, I can tell you that based on everything that I've learned in that academic exercise, not only is South Africa failing to meet the definition of genocide by the United Nations, even in its presentation of the initial case, but it will likely fail even in the request for emergency measures, for the simple reason that it's failing to meet the basic definitions, and because what it is doing is a transparent political stunt that will not bring any more support aside from those who are already inclined to believe that Israel needs to stop. But it will not generate any political support among new countries, new communities. Why am I saying that? Very simple. Let's look at the political context of these accusations. South Africa is facing tremendous internal problems, which include widespread corruption, infrastructure failings, political upheaval with the ANC, the pro-liberation anti-apartheid party, literally falling apart, and internal strife. South Africa is a member of BRICS, but it has not been able to convince any of its fellow members to support this measure, not even Russia and China, which have been notoriously supportive of Hamas as a political movement and critical of Israel. All of this points to the fact that even these countries understand that this action has no legal merit and will likely lead to embarrassment for South Africa. However, what it is designed to do is to generate a lot of bad publicity for Israel in the short term, to galvanize those who are already on board with the fact that with the claim that Israel needs to stop immediately, and it will also lend support to Western academics who have been infiltrated with pro-Hamas ideologies to make these claims around the Western world to students in academia and soft power institutions. So this is an instance of lawfare. Lawfare is an effort to resolve political problems through courts in a way that chills, that brings a chilling political effect, and that is intended to pressure pressure one of the target parties through informational means. It's an abuse of legal process in that sense, and this is exactly what South Africa is doing, and this is why the United States and former British ministers and many others have come out and saying that even bringing this claim to the ICJ has no legal merit, and it's completely preposterous.